What's going on, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting the NFL. And as always, here with me, my co-host, Derek Wetley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, it's another week. Here we are almost halfway through the NFL season. We complain about how fast it goes by, especially if you're cashing tickets out there. Always makes the journey a little bit more enjoyable. But here we are, week 6, folks, and we're ready to come back with more bets.
Absolutely. We're already into week 6 of the NFL season. Plenty of betting season left to go. And that's what we're here to do is make you guys money. Because as long as you guys are making money, that is the goal of the show. Whether you go with my picks or you go with DWee's pick, doesn't matter. Or if you just pay us both. That would have worked out the last couple of weeks for you.
I got
Well,
back-to-back winning
for
weeks
me,
in my pocket.
yeah. But either way, as long as you're making money, that's the whole point. And we are not responsible for your losses, by the way. Just want to make that very clear. You do with your money what you want to do, and only bet what you can lose, what you can afford to lose. Before we get into week number 6, we have to recap what happened in week number 5. And we'll do that by starting with what the home teams did. Straight up, they went 8-6 against the spread. They went 7-7. The favorites were 11-3 straight up, 10-4 against the spread. So big week for favorites, and especially home favorites. Home favorites were 7-4 against the spread this week. Over and unders, 7 overs, 7 unders, pretty even there. And then overall, the home teams straight up 41-37, still lacking against the spread. They're 34-41-3. The favorites, straight up, they're 49-29, but overall, it's pretty even against the spread, 38-37-3. And then over the first 5 weeks, there has been 37 overs and 40 unders. So it's starting to level out now. We've seen some trends back forth with the road dogs. We've seen trends with a lot of the unders. But now it's getting kind of even. It's kind of evening itself out. The odds makers are adjusting their lines. So, but anything stick out to you there?
One, we're getting past this, new preseason time frame of the schedule that, from what we've seen these past couple of years, I think it's something that you're going to have to look at and definitely factor into any handicapping you're doing in the first couple of weeks. So I'm not shocked that, like you said, we're seeing it balance out some. Of course, the books are going to adjust as things advance. So I think some of that is, nature of the beast, getting back to, 50-50 range in that area.
Because Vegas doesn't like to lose money.
Yeah, nobody likes to lose money. And let's be real about it. The book has more on the line than any one of us. So, hopefully you would think in a proper world, they'd have the best people in the room, but that's not the case because there's people out there like you and me trying to not only put money in our pockets, but help everybody else out there. And even if they don't follow our plays specifically, something one of us might say could be the reason why a person looked at one piece of information versus another in a different light, a different point of view. And whatever gets you to that winning ticket is all that matters.
Yeah, just like our goal is to make money, their goal is to make money, and they do that by giving even money on both sides. It doesn't matter if you're going for favorites or the underdogs. They want even money on those sides. So when they see that there is zero trend and both sides are even, then they did their job in making the odds the way they were. But we'll go to our records of week 5, and I had a pretty even week, just like the trends. And I went 2-2 in one push. Best pick was the Browns at the Commanders. And the Commanders -3. Yeah, I think that was a pretty easy pick for me. The way this Jay Daniels was playing, the way the Commanders' offense was playing overall, and yeah, I mean it was the Browns. I mean they're they're just really really bad. Deshaun Watson is pretty terrible, and they just don't have the talent to compensate for his terrible play. The line's pretty bad and messed up. So I knew that Dan Quinn's defense was going to get after him, and boy did they ever, because they sacked him about 7 times. So yeah, definitely easy pick for me. So glad I was on the pretty much nailed that one. But my worst pick, Panthers +4 at the Chicago Bears. Yeah, your Panthers definitely let me down this past week. I thought the um, Bears defense. I mean, I knew the Bears defense was good. I wasn't, you know, unaware of that. But I just thought that the Panthers offense could, maybe handle a little better than they did. They were just pretty much overwhelmed, and I knew the Panthers defense wasn't going to be great or anything. But I was just betting on Caleb Williams of making mistakes and turning over the ball, which he didn't. He proved me wrong. He played a clean game, got DJ Moore for a couple touchdowns, and yeah, so I was fading against him, and stands corrected.
Yeah, that was definitely, DJ Moore's version of a blood and guts game with Carolina. I mean, going off for 2 touchdowns, 100 plus yards. Uh, that was definitely one that got away from the Panthers, and kind of shocked there with you. I wouldn't necessarily would have said they'd win outright, but definitely expected more out of that offense than what we saw. And with that Washington game, I mean, that was almost easy money. We're talking about
Yeah,
one of the most electrifying and exciting offenses in the NFL right now. I mean, you want to talk about a couple people that are out there cooking. Cliff Kingsbury and Daniels, rookie quarterback. I mean, this has to be the hottest show in the NFL right now, because even in a scenario where they don't win the game, you're still expecting them to put up at least 24 points, maybe even 30 plus. So to be able to get that team with, even as a favorite with a small minus number, like -3, one score, definitely I mean, almost has to be a must play. Going into my record for the week, came in with another winning week. That's 2 in a row. I might have found my home with the prop markets, coming in at 3-2, finishing about just over a +1 unit. That plus money really comes in as an advantage with some of these props. As far as my best play, probably have to go to that Panthers game where I had DeAndre Swift to score a touchdown. Now, anybody that actually watched this game as a Panthers fan, more power to you, because that was painful. But there was at least 4 or 5 instances where Swift was literally knocking on the door. He either got the ball to inside the 5 or down to the 1 yard line. And sure enough, if it didn't take till later in the game for him to actually reach that end zone. So you want to talk about a sweat in one of the more painful ways, having to watch somebody go off on a defense, move the ball downfield, pulling off chunk plays, getting right up to the goal line, and then seeing the ball go elsewhere. Oh, that's painful. But yes, we did get there with the anytime touchdown. The beauty of it only has to happen once. I believe it was either right at even money or +110. But still a nice cash to see. Now, as far as my worst play, had to be the Godwin receiving yards prop. With over 5-6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, my man had 5 catches. I'm drawing a blank on the number right now. I believe 64 yards, and I needed 68. This game saw overtime, and not another catch the entire time. If I'm not mistaken, he either didn't see a single target, or if he did, it was one. But yeah, you want to talk about
well, they did get the
disappointment.
ball in overtime. The Falcons went down and scored the touchdown right away, so they weren't really on offense to really even have an opportunity.
That's fair, but we're still talking about a lot of time passing as far as gameplay, where you would expect Godwin to have at least gotten one more catch. I basically only needed one catch. Needed 4 yards and couldn't get it. So, yes, a painful loss to see a man make, I believe, was a 25-yard catch on his fifth catch, getting him just under, where the books had the number at for the receiving prop. And you almost kind of knew, like I felt it in the back of my mind. He's not going to get another catch. And sure enough, that's how it finished.
All right. And that wraps up week number 5. And we will get into our picks for bets, our 5 best bets of week number 6. And since you had the better week, you can start us off. Before you do that, real quick, if you can like this video, if you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, you can do all that. We very much appreciate you all for just tuning in to watch us. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, it's one I've gone to a couple times already here since I've been targeting the prop markets. Going to the Thursday night game. Now, this might be the deciding factor if I just stay off Thursday night games completely. I believe it's a Thursday night game. But still, going to Seattle versus San Francisco. For whatever reason, if you look at the statistics, San Francisco is a good team. They're a good team on paper. You look at the roster, they're a good team. And for whatever reason, things are not translating to W's. And here for this game, I'm going to Geno Smith over 249.5 passing yards in this game. Now, when you look at his stats on the season, in the past 4 games, he's cleared this number. The only game that he didn't was week 1. We're talking about one of the most efficient and active passing games in the league currently. If I'm not mistaken, ranking around the top 5 in pass attempts, pass completion.
Geno Smith is the number 1 in total yards and passing yards. So yeah.
See, there's a lot of things that you look at in Seattle that even against what would be on paper a tough opponent in San Francisco, you would imagine that Seattle's going to go out there and, have a tough time putting up points, getting yardage. Well, you would have thought the same thing last week, and Arizona was able to rack up a W against the San Francisco team and put up 24 points. So with this total being as low as it is, the books may be expecting lower passing totals. It's something we've seen rather frequently to start off the season. Now, that could also be linked to the so-called extended preseason now. Teams actually starting to get into a flow because Cincinnati Bengals might be 1-4, but the past 2 games, that offense has been clicking and blowing the doors out. So, there's a lot of things about this matchup where, yes, on paper, I'd be worried about it. But given the way the San Francisco 49ers have been playing the past couple weeks, I think Geno Smith goes out there and not only clears this number, but I'd be worried about him throwing for 300 yards on them if they get going.
Well, I hope he does because I have him on my fantasy team. So really hoping you win that bet there. I have to say what's up to Jose. What's going on? Say what's up to my dad. Thanks for tuning in. Very much appreciated. All right. I'll get into my first bet of the week. And that will be the Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are getting 3 points at home in Dallas, and I will take the points. I'm starting off with a bang here. There's probably not too many reasons the Cowboys should win this game, considering their injuries on both sides of the ball. And we haven't played our best football. We barely coming off a win against the Steelers. And but you know what? I just got a feeling. It might be that I will be at this game this Sunday. Yeah, we'll be in Dallas watching Cowboys Lions in person. But I'm gonna go with my gut on this one. We are like I said, we're coming off a two game win streak. The Cowboys are 6-0 in the last 6 games versus the Lions. The Lions offense has, and then that's including the last year. We beat them last year by 1 point, I think. And the Lions offense has not been playing great this year. Outside the Seahawks game, of course, Seahawks game, obviously, they were great. But before that, they didn't really score that many points. They scored 20 points in regulation versus the Rams. They scored 16 points against the Bucks and only scored 20 points against the Cardinals. So the offense hasn't been clicking before that Seahawks game, and the Seahawks might just have that bad of a defense. But I think it will depend on whether the whether we can prevent those big plays, because that's really what killed the Seahawks. I mean, they were just getting wide open guys, like the Jameson Williams catch, just running free right there. As long as we can prevent those type of plays, I think we can. It'll be close game. So I feel comfortable getting the 3 points.
Yeah, this is definitely a game. I was looking at some of the matchups in this game for potentially a prop this week. Decided not to, go with anything, but I think it's going. This could highly come down to a matchup between the receiving core of the Lions versus Dallas's pass coverage. You got multiple people that can hurt you in the passing game. With you mentioned Williams. You got the Sun God out there on the edge who has pretty much earned the title. I mean, I think a lot of people, first couple of years, it was basically, who is this guy? And now you're talking about one of the best in the league. And then you also have Hawkinson, I believe. But either way, and that's before we even get to the running backs. Montgomery and Gibbs have been very active, whether it be in the passing game and the run game. So there's a lot of ways this offense can come at you. And with the number of injuries Dallas has had recently, definitely raises some questions about the matchups out there. But as you just mentioned, points have been scarce for the Detroit Lions, and potential. We saw it last week where the Cowboys were in a low-scoring game where all it took was one score late. So it's quite possible we could see this very thing occur if that Lions offense can't, get the ball rolling and potentially get into, a high or an early lead and put the pressure on the offense of Dallas to come through. All right. Moving into my next play now, is a team I referenced just a little bit ago, talking about them getting back on track and going to Jamar Chase with an anytime touchdown in this matchup. Like I said, the past couple of weeks now, that Bengals offense is starting to click. It's easy to dismiss their performance against the Carolina Panthers, a bad offense. Not going to argue that at all. But last week, they took on Baltimore's defense, who, yes, might be weaker in the pass game than the run game, but is still, for the most part, at least people expect them to be a legit defense. And for the Bengals to go out and put up as many points as they did in that matchup, and basically should have won the game. Anybody, that caught the clip or watched the game, the holder for Cincinnati Bengals botched the hold on what would have been the game-winning kick. Yes, there's the possibility that the kicker still misses it, but when you talk about, I'd love to see a kicker practice this scenario and try and make the field goal. I'm willing to bet it's damn near impossible. The ball, wasn't straight up. He's sitting at an angle, a number of different things. Rhythm messed up. But either way, the Bengals basically should have won this game and didn't. So, yes, they are 1-5. But the past 2 weeks, we're talking about offense has put up over 30 points in each game. And we're talking about, possibly one of the deadliest wide receivers out there in Jamar Chase going up against the New York Giants pass defense. And given the other threats that exist on this offense, it's basically pick your poison. Going with Jamar Chase, coming in at plus 112, I believe, with the anytime touchdown. That in itself is a sign that of basically how likely the book feels that this would come in. Anytime touchdown, once you start getting around even money, or even talking about, paying some juice, there's definitely some numbers out there, and I might have one or two of them sitting in my queue right now. where we're talking about minus, 110, minus 120 for anytime touchdown. Basically, the book saying flat out they're reaching the end zone. So in this matchup, definitely like Jamar Chase against pretty much any defense for the possibility to score a TD. Still getting that number on the plus side with plus 112. Taking on at least one of the worst pass cover, pass defense in the New York Giants currently. So I definitely like the odds of him reaching the end zone on this play.
I'll be on this game as well. Yeah, what do you know? Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Giants. Giants are getting 3.5 points, and I'm once again going to take the points with the New York Giants. This is another one that is a little bit risky. But I've been picking, super great in the past few weeks. So, time to mix it up, trying to take some risk and trying to really go for it this week. Their offense, obviously the Bengals offense can put up points. We've seen that pretty much throughout the season. But their defense is terrible. I mean, it's really, really bad. They're giving up all kinds of points. I believe, Daniel Jones has been as bad as that. I thought that he was going to be at least coming into the season. He's been playing okay. I mean, he's been not his old terrible Daniel Jones self. They got a big upset win against the Seahawks just this past week. And in that game, they did discover something. They discovered a run game with Tyrone Tracy Jr. He ran very well, ran for over 100 yards. And their defense actually played like I thought they were supposed to play before the season. It just took a few games to kickstart them a little bit. But they played well. Their front seven, they were sacking the crap out of Geno Smith. They sacked him 7 times. This game is in New York. Giants could get the outright upset, but I'll take the 3.5 for them to cover. If they don't win this game, and I think the Giants have had some very favorable spreads. Considering Vegas, the odds makers just don't think much of them, and that's why their record against the spread is very good. They're 9-3 against the spread in the last 12 games, and it's because they're probably very undervalued because they're not very good, but they can cover a spread, and they've shown that they can. So I'm going to take it.
Yeah, Giants this past week with the upset definitely shocked a lot of people, I believe. Finally actually getting some production out of that defensive line. I know that's been a big issue so far. That Brian Burns trade has, to a lot of people, come across as a bust just based off the lack of production. And honestly, that was, part of the issue with possibly trying to retain him in Carolina. So I think that would be a big question. Do we see some of that similar production out of the defensive line, as well as, I won't say it'll take a miracle, but if we're talking about needing Giants to put up 24 plus points to win this game, I definitely don't think that happens. Actually, a little shocked that the spread is as low as it is. That was something we talked about last week, and damn it, if the books wasn't basically right on the money, I hope if you was out there with a ticket on the Colts on the spread, you had the plus 3.5.
Yeah, that was my push. That was the push I had at plus 3, and at least I didn't lose.
Yeah, I mean that is the silver lining there when you get in those flat numbers without the hook. But yeah, it was something we talked about last week, and sure enough, if the books didn't hit it right on the nose, so I feel a little uneasy with the spread being as low as it is for that Giants game. Somebody out there saying, hey, it could happen. And now moving into my next play, going out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they take on the Saints with another anytime TD with Mike Evans. Plus 130 on this. The Saints have had one of the worst pass defense in the league. That's kind of the matchup that I was targeting here. We've seen steady production out of Mike Evans across this season so far. Not seeing him used so much as the number one on the team, but that still has not, slowed him down necessarily. Uh, Talked about it last week where, it seems or not Mike, Chris Godwin is, more the number one in that situation. But with this matchup, talking about a bad pass defense and, even in his older age, Mike Evans is still that deep ball threat. Throw it up in the end zone, let him go get it, use his height and size against the defender, and savvy enough to use all those years of experience in the NFL to rack up TDs in just numerous ways. And fact that I'm getting this at plus 130, definitely jumped on this quick. Be interested to see. I expect this number to come down as we get closer to Sunday. So I'll be interested to see where this one potentially closes at, because I wouldn't be shocked if it gets around even money, in my opinion, because, like I said, with this matchup, Saints have, just talking bottom 5, bottom 7 in the league in a lot of these passing defensive categories. And we've seen Bucks offense may not be a sure thing, but definitely feel confident in Mike Evans being able to put up a touchdown in this game.
All right, I'll get to my third bet of the week, and that is the Houston Texans -7 at the New England Patriots. This is a total bet against the talentless Patriots team. They are starting Drake May on Sunday. He's making his NFL debut as a starter, at least. And that's just a bad sign. That's a bad sign that they can cover this spread. Rookie quarterbacks in their first start normally do not do well. They're pretty much a total disaster in their first starts. But the Texans are a great team. Obviously, they got a big win versus the Bills, and the Patriots just got beat by Tyler Huntley-led Miami Dolphins team. So that just tells you how bad their team is. In that game, he only threw for 0 touchdowns and 1 pick, and they still beat the Patriots. Patriots are 1-4-1 against the spread last 6 games. Texans 4-1 against the spread versus the Patriots. So it's a big spread, but I don't care because it's the Patriots.
Yeah, this is definitely a matchup. I think there's potentially, a lot of people are going to be taking that, giving up those points. Rookie quarterback starting, not many weapons on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots. Basically have been, winning games and keeping themselves in games through their defense. And so, one thing that does scare me, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but the frequency of teams covering on these large spreads as the underdog been happening at a rather alarming rate. And it's something, you and me have touched on in the past, just how difficult it is to cover some of these larger spreads in the NFL. But when you look at this Patriots team, it's hard to find a way to talk yourself into saying that they can cover. All right, moving into my next one, somebody that spent the other week just lighting up my Panthers. DJ Moore, anytime touchdown, plus 140. Now, we don't have to go much into, what he did last week, plus 100 yards, 2 TDs. Yeah, it was painful. Yeah, he was wearing the wrong jersey. Not going to talk about it. But this, the week prior, he also racked up a TD, getting himself into the, getting that 0 off the TD market. He backed it up with a 2 touchdown performance. Over the past couple of weeks, we've seen, the quarterback play increase with their rookie, Caleb Williams. And, a lot of people out there may not think of DJ Moore as, a top-level receiver, especially with Keenan Allen probably back closer to 100% in more active within the offense this coming week. But with DJ Moore is a wide receiver that basically every year of his career has hit 1,000 yards. So, take it as you will. But like I said, getting that plus 140, we've seen the play out of the Bears offense increase week to week. And so definitely like the odds I'm getting on that. Like I said, I feel DJ Moore is number one wide receiver on this team. And then on the other side of the ball, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, granted, the offensive performance that we saw this past week was impressive. I don't think anybody expects the Jaguars to go out there and manhandle the Chicago Bears defense the way that we saw them do this past week from an offensive standpoint. And from the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of things about the Jaguars that just you don't necessarily like. And, so I definitely like the odds I'm getting the situation. You got a player that's been hot the past couple of weeks coming into a favorable matchup against, one of the worst, I'll say worser, still in the bottom half of the league when you get into some of these passing things like, they're doing better with completions. They're middle of the pack, not bottom of the pack. But when you get into completion percentage, yards per yards per completion, you definitely like some of the indicators that you see in there. So getting a nice juicy plus number like 140, definitely happy riding with DJ Moore into this coming week.
Yeah, definitely. The Bears the offensively keep on their trajectory. That's likely to happen. But just basically is what's Caleb Williams going to do? Does he stay consistent? Growing each game. That's what we will have to see. But for my fourth bet of the week, I got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos. Broncos are getting 3 points at home, and yes, I will be taking again another home dog this week. But each of these teams that of these home dogs I'm taking coming off wins, including the Denver Broncos beating down the Raiders, where they put up 34 points on them. I think the most important part about that is Bo Nix is not turning over the ball. Hasn't turned the ball over in the past 3 weeks. So, I think he's getting on a trajectory himself and getting better each week. At least he's playing a clean ball games there. The Broncos have 3 straight wins. This Broncos defense has played pretty great. They've held 3 teams to under 10 points, 4 teams under 20 points, and the Chargers, the last 2 games, they have scored only 10 points in each of those games. Their only wins have come against the Raiders and the Panthers. Sorry, DWeezy. But the Broncos have won 5 straight games at home versus the Chargers. Chargers just 3-7 against the spread last 10 games versus the Broncos, and Broncos are 4-1 against the spread this season. So definitely on the Broncos side.
Yeah, the Chargers are just definitely not coming into this game playing, inspiring football. It's and I say this as a Panthers fan, it's a hard thing to do to score only 10 points in back-to-back weeks at the NFL level. That being said, you like what you're starting to see out of the Denver Broncos. A lot of people question the Bo Nix move, drafting him. The first couple of weeks certainly inspired, nothing that was the right pick or right move to go there. And, now that we see the team struggling like this, not struggling. I was started thinking about the Chargers and their struggles. Yeah. But, we see took a couple of weeks starting to learn the system, get more comfortable with being in the NFL, just the whole change of life, and you're also talking about people marked it as a negative pre-draft and things of that nature, but we're talking about a rookie that isn't he's older than your average rookie. It's just that simple. So you're talking about a more well, we don't know him personally. It's hard to say if he's mature or not, but you would imagine an older person, slightly more mature, things of that nature. Um, and something I was just taking a peek at, one of the few, this Chargers team was a team I was targeting to have some struggles. Took out a couple props against them, targeting their rookie wide receiver, McConkley, with an under on his season total prop, which I believe was right at 800 yards. And just, a little peek at that. I can't feel too upset where we're sitting. We're, roughly about 200 yards at the moment. And this offense is operating in a sense where they're a run first team. And it's obvious that if Justin Herbert isn't out there, or even basically if Justin Herbert isn't 100%, this offense is going to struggle mightily from a passing perspective. And if you can't throw the ball, the run game is going to suffer. So, it'll be interesting to see how things go for the rest of the season. But as somebody that's sitting with, an under 8.5 wins on the season and an under on the wide receiver prop that I mentioned, feeling like I'm in a good place. Moving into my last play on the week, going to one of the offenses that has been at the top of the league, and that's Buffalo Bills and James Cook with his anytime touchdown prop coming in at plus 120. Now we see them taking on the Jets, and if we were talking about this game from a spread or money line aspect, I'd definitely be worried about, it's a trend that we've seen, teams
The
play
new coach.
after a coach is fired, teams play better. It happens. It's unavoidable. Now, from the aspect of that I'm approaching this with the prop markets, one, we're talking about a high powered offense. Two, we're talking about a team that has, they don't run the offense through the running back position, but he is definitely a key cog in the offense. And it was something I highlighted at the beginning of the season. Things seem to be playing out a little bit kind of how I expected with the involvement of James Cook in this offense. And getting this, TD prop at plus 120, I'd expected this to have been a minus number. And when I saw it at plus money, had to jump on it quick. Took the plus 120. Do expect, I won't say I expect them to win outright, but if we're talking about a scenario where the Jets are possibly winning, that means both sides are likely putting up points. And the more chance your offense has at putting a touchdown up on the board, the more likely you got of cashing anytime touchdown, regardless of who the player is.
All right. For my final bet of week number 6, I got the Indianapolis Colts -1 on the road at Tennessee. They're taking on Titans in a divisional rivalry game. The Colts, tried to make a big comeback last week, but came up short. Um, that's what ended up getting me the push. At least I didn't lose any money, but still, they looked pretty good in that comeback. Joe Flacco threw for like a bunch of yards. Um, if they stick with Flacco, this offense looks a lot more effective, a lot more explosive. At least on some at least more consistently explosive, because he was explosive with Anthony Richardson, but it was just not as consistent as it looks with Flacco. Um, Will Levis, just he makes really stupid mistakes. That's if he's going to play. He is questionable for this game. He went out in the last game, but they did have a bye week, so he may or may not be healthy by now. We'll have to keep an eye on that and be better if he was playing than if he wasn't. To be honest, even if because even in a dominated victory like they had against the Dolphins, he still looked pretty bad. Um, Colts, they shown that they can cover a spread this season. They're 4-1 against the spread last 5 games. depending on what number you got, it could be 3-1-1. If you got the 3, so. But overall, they've been very positive against the spread this season. Titans just 2-4 in the last 6 games against the spread. Will Levis, like I said, I'm betting against him. That's again if he does play, but Colts have their own problems. They didn't have Jonathan Taylor last week, so hopefully he will be back for this game. Hopefully he's fully healthy, and that'll be a big plus for the Colts. So it's only 1 point spread, so I mean you can probably take a money line on that. Well, if they're the favorites, you probably wouldn't want to get the money line, but small spread. I think they'll win on the road. So I like the Colts in this one.
Yeah, my main concern with this game, I know it was talked about last week, would Richardson be back? Because we're potentially talking about 2 completely different offenses with Anthony Richardson out there under center versus Joe Flacco. Now, first of all, why does it feel like Joe Flacco tried to retire and saw that Pepsi commercial with Elway and Marino and Rice, Moss? We can unretire. Like, he is out there doing it. I mean, just doing it. Like, all the middle-aged dads that thought they still got a shot and, they just never got that burn, he is making them proud. But yeah, if we're talking about, Joe Flacco being out there running this offense, I definitely would like that scenario more. Part of the reason why I kind of stayed off this game from that prop perspective had to do with that, because I do think there's some potential behind maybe targeting Josh Downs over receptions or possibly yardage, depending on where those numbers are at. But I think it's a completely different thing when you talk about Anthony Richardson being under center, just being so raw and still basically a rookie. He ain't played 16 games. Man's pretty much a rookie.
Yeah.
But he might not be to the level of experience where he's confident enough to work through enough progressions to get to maybe a third or fourth option like Josh Downs in this offense. Flacco, on the other hand, not having that mobility aspect to him.
I don't know. Last week, did you see him run last week? He had a big, huge run. Running pretty fast too.
Well, now, I mean, once you get going, you better start going fast. See the size of the people chasing you? Like, I seen Andy Dalton a couple weeks now, take off. I ain't seen him take a hit, but yeah, they'll get out there and get their little scamper on. It don't happen more than once or twice, though. But yeah, like I said, we're talking about, this team being led by Flacco on offense. Definitely would like that more. I think partially the uncertainty is why we see this spread like we do. And as you mentioned, there's a possibility that Jonathan Taylor could be back. Was sidelined with a high ankle sprain last week. So it'll be interesting to see what capacity he'll come back in this game, if at all.
Definitely. All right. That is our 5 best bets of week number 6. We'll be back next week. As always, doing the same thing, trying to make you guys money. But for now, you can tell the people where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, people can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and at The Yard Bets on Twitter.
And you can find me at NFLK22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can find me on this channel on Good Friends, Better Rivals on Fridays at 3 o'clock. But I won't be there this Friday because, like I said, I'll be in Dallas for Oklahoma and the River Shootout, Oklahoma and Texas. Obviously, I want to see my Longhorns win that game. And also the Detroit Lions versus my Cowboys. So big weekend for me. But I'll still be laying that money down before I take off. Making my bets a little earlier this week. But yeah, get your guys' bets in. Good luck to all of you. And we'll see you next week. But like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.